Despite being relatively outdated, the Toyota Tacoma is easily the best-selling mid-size truck in America. Now there is an all-new Tacoma for the 2024 model year. We've got new engines under the hood, a fully redesigned interior, and some new styling here on the outside. Let's see if this new Tacoma is going to be another instant hit. So the truck that I'm using for this walk-around portion of the video is actually the limited trim. This is the most luxurious version of the Tacoma, and for full disclosure, we could only take the road versions of the Tacoma. I couldn't take a TRD Pro or a TRD Off-Road for this portion of the video. I think those are the best looking ones, but we're going to use this limited trim because it's got all of the features to show you what's available on this new Tacoma. So you're gonna have these HID headlights on all Tacoma models, which is really nice. I love how they kept the styling kind of familiar, but they did modernize it quite a bit. I'm loving this red exterior, especially on this limited trim. I think it looks really nice. We've got this cool silver finish grille that has a little bit of chrome to it, but it's not like super chrome, so it's not too blingy. I do like that. The wheels, on the other hand, those are a little bit blingy for my taste, I will say. We do also have some chrome badging here that says limited, and we also have a chrome mirror cap as well. Moving around to the back, this is the double cab model, so this is the only way to get a Tacoma limited. You can also get the extra cab, so that is a little bit shorter and it doesn't have a back seat, but this is what the double cab looks like. You can get this with either a 5 or a 6 foot bed. Now, the extra cab only comes with a 6 foot bed, so that is something to consider. And this actually has a new bed feature that I really want to show you. So you can lower it from here, or just like the Tundra, you get a little button here on the side that you can just kind of bump with your elbow if you have full hands. And we actually have a power up and down tailgate here, which is really nice. So I do like that feature here. We've got some onboard power here, which is kind of nice. We have a little lockable storage bed in here. And then over here, we have a little bit of storage. You can actually get an air compressor in here, which is really cool. Now, I can hit either of those buttons a second time if I want to go ahead and close it. Or something that's really nice is I can just bump this with my knee and it will start going up again automatically. That is a really luxurious feature. And here on the inside, we are going to see that Toyota has really decked out the Tacoma with a lot of features. So this is like a light gray interior. There are other colors available depending on trim, but these are heated and ventilated seats here on this limited trim. We also have a power deployable running board. So you go ahead and shut the door. Those running boards are going to retract. I believe that the limited is the only trim that's going to have those. The rest are either going to be fixed or they're not going to have a running board. I'm going to go ahead and step on inside. We can see that we have our Tacoma badge up here. We've got this nice, like sort of unfinished, unpolished wood. So it does have that rough feel to it, which I really like. All Tacomas are gonna get a push button start, which is quite nice as well. So an 8-inch screen is what's standard on the Tacoma, but we've got the larger 14-inch display. This is actually the biggest screen that you can get on any mid-size truck. So in my opinion, there are 3 key things that the Tacoma needs to do to remain dominant in this segment. I think they need to modernize, because the old Tacoma just felt really old on the inside. So modernize. I think they need to improve the ride and handling when we get it out on the road, but they still need to keep that taco-ness, that thing that everybody loves about the Tacoma. So we'll go over all 3 of those in this video, but I first want to start off by saying that it's going to clear the first category, which is modernize in spades. This big screen is really great. We've got the digital rear view mirror available. We've got a fully digital instrument cluster that is optional. You're going to get a 7-inch digital gauge cluster with like a little bit of, I'd call them analog. It's just for like your fuel and stuff like that on the base model. But this is the larger 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster, which is quite nice. We also have the upgraded 10-speaker JBL audio system. 4 speakers is going to be your base. There's also a 6-speaker audio system as well. And the thing that's really cool about this JBL system is you actually get this little pop-up speaker here on the dash. When it's in there, it actually operates as one of the car speakers, but then you pop it out and then it functions as a Bluetooth Bluetooth speaker, which is quite cool. We do have four-wheel drive, so we have four-wheel low, two-wheel high, four-wheel high, and four-wheel low controlling here. We have some drive modes as well. We have a 360-degree camera. If I go ahead and toss it into reverse, that'll give you a better idea of what that looks like. Automatic climate control, I mentioned heated and ventilated seats. We have a decent amount of storage here around the shifter, including our wireless charger as well. A little bit more storage here above the Tacoma badge. And really, this cabin just feels a lot nicer than the outgoing Tacoma. We have a ton of standard safety features, including adaptive cruise control, lane keep. So just in terms of safety tech, entertainment tech, overall design, this is a much more modern pickup truck in here. Now, I mentioned that this is the double cab model, so this is the biggest version of the Tacoma that you can get. The extra cab model doesn't actually have a back seat back here. It has some locking storage and some other things that you can get, but if you need a back seat, you're gonna wanna get this double cab model. We do have this little strap here. If I pull this up, we do have a lot more underfloor storage than we used to get on the old Tacoma. It was very shallow on that old model. The problem is, the back seat itself is still very small, as you can see, even if you do get this double cab model. So it is not very big back here. We do have our cup holders, 2 USB-C ports, and an AC outlet here. So that is quite nice. But in terms of legroom, it's not great. I will say, though, that this car's chief rivals, the GMC Canyon and the Chevy Colorado, they don't have great back seats either. All right, so now let's get out on the road in the new 2024 Toyota Tacoma, and we're going to check if Toyota did the second thing on my big 3 list of things that I think they need to do to keep the Tacoma at the top of the midsize market. And that is improve the ride and handling and kind of on-road ability of the Tacoma, because the last one I drove was just really bouncy. It was really sluggish on the highway. I hated the steering, I hated the driving position, and I didn't really love spending a significant amount of time in the Tacoma. So the one that I've taken out here on the road is actually the limited trim. So this is the most expensive before you start getting into the Trail Hunter and the TRD Sport. This is the most luxurious and the most comfortable version of the new Tacoma. I'll first talk about the engines, because right now the hybrid is not on the market yet. Those go into production a little bit later. So we are driving the gasoline powered 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder with no hybridization. Now, as standard, this engine produces just 228 horsepower and 243 pound-feet of torque. That's not a ton of power, but that's really just for the SR trim. Most of the other trims that you're going to be looking at have more power than that. So the SR is really your work truck, your basic transportation, and that is still a lot more standard power than you used to get from the 4-cylinder Tacoma, which had I think it was 160 horsepower or something really weak like that. And despite having way more power because it's now turbocharged and way more torque, you're actually going to get better fuel economy. You're going to get 26 miles per gallon on the highway, 20 combined. That's for the SR, which only comes with an 8-speed automatic transmission. You lose a little bit if you add 4-wheel drive to that, but that is better fuel economy than that lackluster, wheezy 4-cylinder used to make, and it's definitely better than the old naturally aspirated V6 engine that you got in the Tacoma. Now, the one I'm driving is the more powerful version of this turbocharged iForce engine. It produces 278 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque if you get the 8-speed automatic. There is a manual available as well. Now, the power isn't significantly more than the old V6 in the Tacoma, but the torque is so much better. It just feels like it gets out of its own way now so much better than that old V6. If you were going uphill or at highway speeds, that V6 really didn't feel like it had a lot of oomph to it. And that 6-speed automatic transmission that it used to be paired to didn't really help out the equation. It was always just stuck between these long gears, and it never felt like you could find the right ratio. But in this, 1 or 2 quick downshifts, plenty of torque, nice little grumble from the 4-cylinder engine. Not the best sounding motor. It's hard to make a 4-cylinder turbo sound good. But in terms of smoothness, in terms of passing power, I love the powertrain in this so much more than I love that old Wheezy V6. I should also mention that there will be the iForce Max powertrain. So that is the same 4-cylinder, but you add a hybrid system. The power goes up to 326 horsepower and a whopping 465 pound-feet of torque. Now, that is kind of reserved for kind of the upper trim levels. You're not going to get a base SR with that. Both the TRD Pro and the Trail Hunter are going to come standard with the iForce Max, but I can't really talk much more about them yet because I won't be able to drive those for another couple months. And now let's just talk about how this Tacoma drives compared to the outgoing model. The first thing you're going to notice is electric power steering. The old hydraulic system is gone. Good riddance. I don't miss it. Some people love hydraulic steering in like sports cars and stuff, but in a truck, I don't really care. It was never like very pinpoint accurate anyway. So this is just so much lighter. It makes it so much more easy to maneuver. I don't feel like I'm having to do a lot of corrections to keep the truck straight like I did on the last one, especially at highway speeds. So the electronic power steering is really aiding in the road manners of this new Tacoma. Now, interestingly, the lowest trim levels of the Tacoma do come with leaf springs as standard in the back. They can be upgraded to an independent rear multi-link suspension, and that's what we have on this limited trim. This is the multi-link suspension, and the limited is actually going to be the only version of the Tacoma that gets an adaptive suspension system. So I actually took a quick spin in the base SR trim, which has the leaf springs in the back, and I can tell you these roads are a little bit torn up, and I notice a huge difference between this adaptive suspension on the limited and the leaf springs. The leaf springs, I was definitely feeling a lot more vibrations. The truck was kind of bouncing around. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not it's the independent suspension. I know that is doing a little bit of the smoothing out, but I think it's the adaptive suspension that's really working out a lot of this and really making it smooth. So if you want the most comfortable on-road experience in your Tacoma, this limited trim, while it's not my favorite looking, it's definitely the most comfortable one. This thing is the best riding Tacoma I've ever driven. In addition to the new suspension, we also have disc brakes. They're now standard across the Tacoma. We don't have any drum brakes anymore. Each trim has its own different suspension tuning, so I haven't been able to get behind the wheel of every single model, but there are going to be some differences between, say, a TRD Sport and a TRD Off-Road in terms of the suspension. So I recommend, depending on what you're looking for, you might want to test drive a few of them when you go to your local Toyota dealership, because there is a pretty decent range in terms of comfortability depending on which one you get. And in terms of towing, depends on which one you get. As always with trucks, 6,500 pounds is your max, 1,710 is your payload. It's not the best in the segment. The GM twins can pull over 7,000 pounds, so that might not be the reason why you buy a Tacoma for maximum towing. Again, you're probably looking for a full-size truck if you're looking for the best towing capacity. But to sum up, did they improve the ride and handling? Yes, with an asterisk. I would say there is a huge spread between the base SR and this top limited in terms of how road-worthy they are and how comfortable they are. But at least this limited trim that I'm glad I got a chance to drive, this is a huge improvement out on the road versus the old Tacoma. So I'm going to say Toyota gets the thumbs up in that category. All right, so now for the interest of all of the enthusiasts who are watching this video, I've hopped out of the Tacoma Limited and into a TRD Sport model because the one I am driving is available with the 6-speed manual transmission. So the Tacoma and the Jeep Gladiator are the only two mid-size trucks that are still available with a stick shift. The Tacoma actually offers it on a ton of trim levels. You can get it on the SR5, you can get it on this TRD Sport, you can get it on the TRD Off-Road. So just a lot of different ways that you can get this stick shift, and it's not really locked to certain packages either. This one has 4-wheel drive, this one has the premium package, so I've got heated and ventilated seats, a heated steering wheel with a stick shift. So that is a really cool combination in my opinion. So the first thing thing you'll want to note when getting the manual transmission is you are going to lose a little bit in terms of output. So you get 270 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. So you're losing about 8 horsepower and about 7 pound-feet of torque. Nothing major, just something to think about if you are getting the manual. You're also losing 2 gears here. Now, the manual transmission itself, the bell housing and all of that, is a carryover from the previous generation Tacoma. But because we've got way more torque than we did from that old V6, the manual doesn't feel like super strained anymore. You can keep it in 1 gear without downshifting, and it feels like you have plenty of power. The throws themselves are very long. This is a very long gear lever. The clutch is also very long as well. So it does take a little bit of getting used to with where the bite point is. It's not as bad once you're on the road, and I actually had a chance to off-road in the manual version of the Tacoma as well. And when you put it into 4-wheel low and you basically just have this crawler gear in first gear, it's almost impossible to stall it like that. It just goes, you take your foot off the clutch and it just kind of rolls all by itself. First gear becomes very short when you're in 4-wheel low as well. But something that I did note, that even when you had it in 4-wheel low, the turning radius was pretty good. I never heard the differential going guk, 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 even when I had it locked up. So in terms of off-roading with the manual, I was very impressed with how easy it was to hop in. I actually drove it off-road before I drove the stick shift on road, so it took me a little bit of getting used to where the bite point is, but after that, it was super easy to drive off-road. The only thing I'll say is you're gonna lose fuel efficiency if you get the manual. The 8-speed auto is gonna be your more fuel efficient option. This is definitely a nicer manual than what you get in the Jeep Gladiator. That thing is just really sloppy. There's no dead pedal because of how the Gladiator's cab is, so there's nowhere to rest your left foot. So the notchiness when you do go in and out of gears in this is definitely better than the Gladiator. It's not like a sports car, but I think people who just really, really love their manual transmissions are going to be happy enough with this Tacoma. I'm just not sure how many people like that there are out there. Let me know in the comments if you would get your Tacoma with the 8-speed auto or if you would get this 6-speed manual transmission. I should also note that this manual transmission, while it is the same as the outgoing generation, it does have some new features, including the IMT mode. So it does kind of do some rev matching for you as well. It does do hill hold, which is nice once you figure out that bite point. So it does do a rev match when I go ahead and downshift. And the other cool feature on here is this clutch start button. So let's just say you are off-roading and you stall the truck out and you're about to roll back. The clutch start button, because on a modern vehicle, you actually have to push the clutch in and be in neutral to be able to start the vehicle. That clutch start function will allow you to start the Tacoma in gear so you won't roll back. So that is a really nice addition from Toyota there. And now I should just talk about how this TRD Sport model drives, because it is significantly different from the Limited in terms of how the suspension feels. It's a little more bumpy than the Limited. Of course, it doesn't have adaptive dampers, but it's really not bad. It's better that it has the independent rear suspension versus the leaf springs. I think overall, because the steering is lighter, because the ride is a little bit better, because it now has an independent rear suspension, that overall on most trim levels of the Tacoma, this is a much better vehicle to drive on the road, and it keeps all of the capability off-road. And I should just comment on the TRD Sport while I'm driving it. You do notice that it is a little different from the Limited that I just got out of. The suspension isn't quite as nice as it is in the Limited with the adaptive suspension, but it is still definitely better than that SR that I drove. So I will say that overall, I think that Toyota has improved the on-road manners of this Tacoma. All right, let's wrap up our time with the all-new 2024 Toyota Tacoma, I'm going to leave you with a little teaser of the new TRD Pro model, which unfortunately I was not going to be able to drive today. But if you want to see the video on the TRD Pro when I do get to drive it next year, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of all of our latest videos. And we don't have pricing on this TRD Pro model just yet, nor do we have pricing on the Trail Hunter over there, but we do have pricing on the rest of the lineup. So the starting price for the SR Extra Cab model with two-wheel drive is going to be $31,500. So pricing has gone up by about $3,000 compared to the old Tacoma, which was about $28,600. But you are getting a lot more standard power and torque. You're getting a turbocharger. You're getting a much more modern interior with a modern infotainment system. And I really just think that the Tacoma overall is a much better value car. Now you can add four-wheel drive to the SR Extra Cab. That's going to cost you $34,700. So it's about $3,000 to get four-wheel drive if you do need that. You can also get the double cab for $33,700. So it's only about $2,200 to upgrade to the double cab on that SR model. Now we do have a ton of different trims available as well. If you want to upgrade to the SR5, that's going to start at about $36,200. The TRD Pre-Runner, which is only available as an extra cab model with two-wheel drive, that's $38 grand. You can get the TRD Sport for about $39 grand. The TRD Off-Road is about $42,000. And then that Limited that I showed you, that is the most expensive currently available trim at just over $52,000. And let's go over the three criteria that I said this new Tacoma would have to hit in order to be a hit in the mid-size truck market. The first is modernize. I think Toyota cleared that benchmark easily. Even the base truck has much better technology than the previous generation Tacoma. That 14-inch screen is great, and they've added tons of available features that you can get on a lot of the different trim levels in a premium package. The next one was improve the road manners. I'm gonna give them a thumbs up. I think it is a little bit more trim dependent on that one. The lower trims with the leaf springs in the back still have a little bit of a bumpy ride, but I think there are gonna be truck customers out there that still really like that. And at the high end, that Limited with the adaptive suspension is super comfy out on the road, and it has much better highway manners, but all of them have a better powertrain that just feels like it has so much more passing power and better road manners. So that's why I'm gonna give Toyota the thumbs up on that. And now we're gonna go over that last point. Did it keep that taco-ness that everybody loves, that simple pickup truck feeling, that durable feeling? I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I don't think that the creature comforts have ruined anything. All they've done is enhance the Toyota Tacoma. This is still going to be one of the most reliable vehicles that you can buy. The resale values should still be strong. It still looks like a Tacoma, and it still drives like a Tacoma, just better. So I think this is going to be an instant hit when it arrives on the market, and Toyota is going to have trouble keeping these on dealer lots. I hope you've enjoyed this video. As always, like, subscribe, all that jazz. I'll see you next time.